But speaking of the wrong way, let's talk a little bit about Star Wars, in particular, the new final Skeleton Crew trailer, because this show is premiering very soon. But it's basically Star Wars Goonies. That's always been the pitch from the very beginning. And they released their final official trailer a couple days ago on November 1st. And basically, it's a 2-minute trailer. And I sat down. My first impression of this thing, and I'd watched the teasers before, so like I didn't go into this blind, but it felt very un-Star Warsy at the very beginning. Like it wasn't until they got into the spaceship and like the different aliens and the robots and stuff like that that it kind of felt like Star Wars. But for the most part, it felt like I don't know, like you remember that old movie Explorers? Like it felt kind of like that, but it had like like non-Star Warsy music and had these kids and all this other stuff. And so like I'm kind of on the fence about this because it's very obviously Goonies, right? It's very obviously like it's like they have pirates and all this other stuff. And Alan, you've been, I shouldn't say you, but like Film Threat in general has been very critical about how Lucasfilm has been trying to turn Star Wars into a girl brand to its detriment. And with this one, it feels like this is another attempt to try to appeal to like a younger audience. But it's kind of funny because like there's no young white boys in this group. It's all women and one mixed race a boy. The actual trailer shows like his mixed race family. He has an African American father and a white mother. The only white guy in this is basically Jude Law, and he's not even like featured very prominently in the trailer. And I'm just wondering, like, because it feels, even though it's meant to kind of harken back to adventure and 80s movies and Goonies and stuff like that, it feels very DEI to me. And so, like, I'm hoping it's good, but even if it's good, it feels like it's going to be something that is an outlier when it comes to Star Wars. So, Alan, I wanted to get your take on not just the new trailer, but Skeleton Crew in general.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I'm less hung up on seeing white people in things. I mean, my whole point is if it's authentic to whatever it is, the culture, the IP, the lore, keep it authentic to it. Like I just saw a movie about World War II that had or pre-World War II where it's a town in England where you have the white people and the black people and they're all getting along when at that time they weren't getting along. And that it was all cast for DEI purposes. But regarding Skeleton Crew, I watched it. It felt very much like it was for kids. It felt very much that I'm not the audience for this, which is fine. If they want to make a kids Star Wars TV show, that's fine. And I think that's what they're doing here. I'll say that the quality looked good in terms of a lot of values, especially when you compare it to Ahsoka and to the Acolyte. Everything looks pretty good. And in terms of the story, the little story that I was able to pick up, it feels very much like kid stories from the 80s and 90s. I think the best I could say about the Skeleton Crew is I'm fairly apathetic toward it. I don't see anything really that that worries me. I don't think it's lore breaking like the Acolyte was. It just, I think the biggest criticism would be, I think Disney spent way too much money on a kid show and they're slapping the Star Wars label on it. And I'm not sure how Star Wars it's going to feel. So that's my general opinions of it. I'm cautiously optimistic. Well, I'll probably get like the first 4 episodes to view before it premieres and we'll see.
Well, Brian, one of the beautiful things about the original Star Wars is that they were movies for all ages. You could be a little kid and enjoy them, but you could also be an adult and enjoy them. And I feel like the art of making an all ages appealing piece of media in Hollywood has been lost over the years. It feels like in the 80s, they had that formula down pat where like, you could take your kids to a movie in the 80s and the entire family could enjoy it. Pixar famously kind of like dialed in on that formula as well, where like, parents could enjoy Pixar movies just as much as the kids could. And to Alan's point, it does feel like Skeleton Crew is aimed particularly at children. But that begs the question. It's like, why can't Lucasfilm make something for all ages? all genders, all races, and have people enjoy it.
Yeah, they can't do it. I don't think they even see some certain genders and races. So it's hard to make something for something you don't see. I think the whole Goonies meets Star Wars premise, I mean, it's already been done, but not in live action. It was done with Prodigy. And it worked. And even if it was made for kids, I gotta tell you, I know a lot of adults that watched Prodigy, and that was literally a cartoon, and they enjoyed it. So, like, if the lore is right, even if it's made for kids,
I question if those are actual adults, though.
Okay, Tom. If the lore is right and like they get some of the story stuff right, I think there's adults that would want to watch it. I think there's adults that have kids that want to feel like they did when they watched the original trilogy, and they'll be able to watch this with their kids. And as long as it doesn't have a bunch of messaging, and it's actual like Star Wars appropriate, then I think that it might be a win for them. Like, I know I'm in the wrong camp, because Star Wars is dead, and it is dead to me. I'm not gonna be watching this probably. I mean, I might check it out for the stream, but like, I'm not interested. Unless I'm watching Alan's show and he's like, "Yo, this is actually pretty great." Then maybe I'll check it out. But I'm not gonna go out of my way. And you know what's crazy? I might get a screener too, and I'm probably not even gonna log into the screener account. So the thing is, like, a lot of people are turned off on this, but there's a lot of adults that have kids that used to love Star Wars that might give this a shot. So,
well, Tom, so this show is being produced by John Watts, who basically he did all the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. He recently did Wolves for
which
Apple
I enjoyed.
TV. I thought it was a great movie. So like, this guy has a track record of making like really good, entertaining films. So there's a little
Star
bit.
Wars don't though.
Yeah, Star Wars doesn't. So the question is John Watts going to be the deciding factor here in whether or not this show is good? What are you hearing? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, at this point, I just watched the trailer and I just had the old Ian Malcolm thought of, are you going to have any actual Star Wars in your Star Wars? Because unlike you, I didn't see any Star Wars in this. This felt like Guardians of the Galaxy Junior meets Explorers meets Goonies. It was like everything but Star Wars, and this sci-fi elements in it felt generic. They didn't feel remotely Star Wars. The show might be fine, but it just feels so on the nose with Goonies and stuff to where it's just like, you really copied their homework and didn't even bother changing any of it, really, right? I mean, the only big difference is okay, you got a more diverse group of kids, and as Brian pointed out, this is very similar to another idea we already had in Star Trek, so it's not like it's anything really new that's been explored already. So I don't know. I really never thought about the kids in Star Wars. I was never really interested in what kids were doing. I don't think anybody ever really was. That was one of the big turnoffs of episode 1 to begin with, is nobody gave a shit about Anakin when he was a little kid. Younglings, whatever.
Younglings.
People don't care, really, at the end of the day. Nobody even cares about Broom Boy. When's the last time somebody talked about him?
Oh, Broom Boy. Remember, he was the future. He was the future of the franchise.
He was the future. He could still be. I'm still in the Wade camp, though. I want.
He's going to make a cameo in this show.
He's dead.
No,
at the end of the day, I mean, it wasn't really made for us. None of the Star Wars stuff is anymore. So if it just happens to be good, I guess then that's a plus. But I mean, the only thing it has going for it, as you pointed out, is this John Watts, and I haven't seen him do anything else but the two things you mentioned. So we'll have to wait
to
see.
Tom's point, is anyone under the age of 10 interested in Star Wars
anymore? I don't even know if 10-year-olds are.
Yeah, exactly.
50-year-old ladies sipping a wine out of a box with their cats.
I'm sorry, pop music
they're
does
watching
not belong in Star Wars unless it's like, in Jabba's palace. You know what I mean?
You know what's funny is 2 days ago when Halloween was going on, I was handing out candy. Not a single Star Wars Halloween costume.
That says a lot, because you used to get tons of Darth Vaders and stuff like that.
Not a single May or OSHA.
Nope. Nope, not a single one.
Not even a Boba Fett.
I saw a Padme and I saw a Rey. So I did see a Rey this year, but I saw a Padme as well. So
I didn't see a single one.
Did this kid actually want to be Rey, or did they get forced to be Rey because that's a cheap costume?
it was a younger girl, so I assume that she had wanted it for herself. The Padme was an older person, so.
Oh.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
Well, someone who grew up with the prequels, who was the Padme, so.
The jury's out on that one.
Well, Odin, I want to throw this to you because as one of the stewards of America's youth, you do teach in elementary school, I believe, or high school, one of those two things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's a smart idea for Star Wars to kind of segment down and be like, okay, we need more kids so that we can future-proof our franchise? So like, let's make more stuff geared towards children. Like, what do you think of their strategy?
I honestly still don't get it because, on paper it seems to make sense. They want to try to go after the younger audiences. They can get them interested in Star Wars so that they can try to maybe salvage something when it comes to this IP, because clearly they've run away a large portion of the older fan base, especially those who are fans of the original films, even the prequel era. Like, a lot of that audience has just left because of the nonsensical decisions that they've been making. So I can see on paper why they're doing it. The problem is that in order for those audiences that they're going for to be watching it, you need the adults to also be watching it, because that's how all fandoms are passed on. It's, hey, this is something I watched when I was a kid. Watch it with me, my young child, right? It's like, let me show you. It's like that rite of passage, right? It's now time for you to experience what I once experienced. That people then grow up loving things because they're like, hey, I grew up watching that with my dad or with my mom. So just trying to go straight for that demographic and that younger demographic when you've already lost that demo that is going to be the ones that provides the access to the new stuff, it's a non-winning strategy, because they'll just only appeal to the ones that are still hanging around, meaning they're not really going to grow their audience all that much.
And culture, like, this isn't the first time that they've tried to appeal to children, but I think it's the first like live action under Kathleen Kennedy's regime that has specifically been like, okay, we're making this for kids. But like, famously they had Star Wars Resistance, which was another animated thing that nobody watched because nobody cares about, like the sequel era. But we've also, obviously Dave Filoni has had a good run with like the Clone Wars and like all this other stuff. And a lot of kids got into that stuff because it was animated. But do you think that success in animation is going to translate over into live action?
Well, they haven't been able to prove that a lot of success can translate now under the new, guidance of the leadership at Disney, regardless. I think that their translation from the big screen to the small screen has been rather rough. If it started out on the small screen, I think it survived rather well, aside from, obviously the ones that you observed. But, in as much as there's potential here, I don't know. Somebody's going to have to argue with me about whether or not people just don't have Disney Plus out of convenience. I don't think they have it out of, that it's a have to have because of these specific shows. Disney hasn't been able to create, the staying power of an HBO or something similar, right? You don't have to have Disney Plus. You can just pick it up whenever. It's not a keep in the stable because you're going to get consistently good entertainment. And when it comes to Star Wars, it's not something you keep in the stable because you're going to have any good entertainment. So if you ask me if they can do it in the children's sphere, I don't know. Their number one, children's program right now, whether it be live action or animated, is Bluey. They don't even own it. So, do I have high expectations for them? No. Do I have high expectations for any television Star Wars? No. But you know what? Maybe they'll have a hit with kids. Maybe, making sense and looking like generic space adventure is a good plan. I don't know. I look, they've tried everything else. They've failed. You can't bring in Captain EO and Back to the Future and mix it with Altered Carbon and think you're going to have a good thing. I don't know. I mean, I guess in a sense, just visually Altered Carbon, not like actually transferring your stack or anything. But yeah, I don't have high expectations. That's the answer.
Well, I want to close this by asking Alan this question because it's curious. It's like, do you think at any point someone at Lucasfilm might say, hey, why don't we try appealing to our original fan base, the thing that carried us through decades of no movies, no TV shows and stuff like that, and actually give them what they want so they can then start bringing their friends and their kids into our fold again? Or have they just committed to this strategy of, okay, we need to appeal to new audiences only because our current audience isn't going anywhere? What do you think about that?
Yeah, Star Wars is like your old girlfriend finding a new lover. It's like it was fun while we were together, but now have fun on your own. I just feel like it's just gone so far down the wrong road that to go back would require a oh my god, it was all a dream moment. I think you could have salvaged maybe Star Wars after the sequels, but the television has just been kind of ruining everything. And if you can somehow make everyone forget that television ever existed and just go back to cinema, but even then they've kind of ruined that. Because I think deep down the heart of Star Wars was Han, Luke, and Leia, and they have yet to create a trio that could replace them. And they have no new idea. Someone would really have to come up with new ideas for what the Empire is going to do next and why they're going to do it that way and why you need a rebellion. And last of all, an idea of what the hell the Force means now. Because you got an idea what the Force meant in the prequels and in the original. But it just, this idea of the Force now is just telekinetic powers. And so everything that we loved about Star Wars as children has just been watered down and bastardized. And I just don't feel like, unless you do some major reconstruction, there's no hope.
Well, if only Star Wars had source material to work from, Alan. That's the big difference here, is they're just making it up as they go.
books are just sitting there.
Yeah. All right, guys. Real quick, I want to get some super chats. Late Night with Cat Podcast, aka JT Gunn. Good to see you, JT, for $2. Hey, everybody! Watched Salem's Lot on HBO. 7 out of 10. I watched that. I fell asleep through it. It was okay, I guess.
I tried to watch it too, and it didn't work out. I gotta know what's good about it.
I don't know. I was gonna say everybody said they truncated the last half of the book so badly that I haven't even bothered with it. So
Midnight Mass on Netflix is a much better Salem's Lot adaptation than anything that I think that they're putting.
This would be the third one we've had now.
Yeah,
because people forgot about the TV movie we had in the 90s or early aughts when they were redoing all those ones for AMC or whatever it was.
Also,
The Shining and a few other ones. Yeah.
J.J. Abrams tried to do like an adaptation of Salem's Lot with
that's right,
that weird Stephen King universe show that he was doing, and that failed miserably too. So